Don't think I'm over here making an English muffin.
That's fine. This is casual. We're talking about all sorts of stuff.
4 things in particular.
4 things. We have 2 conspiracies. Oh, what's up? I'm Woods.
I'm Jacob.
How's it going, guys? This is kind of new to my channel. I don't just sit down. Nor are they familiar with a steady hand.
Oh, because you're usually holding it in your hand.
Usually holding it, usually shaking. It's my nerves. Bye, Kat. Thank you for letting me use your camera.
Hey, no problem.
And your lights and your husband and your studio.
My home, yeah. I have to come back for my stuff.
Bye now.
I need to come back for my stuff.
Goodbye.
Enjoy your English muffin.
So, thanks for coming. We each brought 2 of our favorite, I wouldn't say favorite, I would say they're very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
My favorites are a little bit
unique, a little different.
Unique, crazy.
That's kind of what makes a conspiracy theory, though. They're so crazy that you can kind of believe them, but you can never quite prove them.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And that's what makes them fun. That's what makes...
Can you just...
Hey guys.
Do you want to start first?
Sure. I mean, my first one's pretty intricate.
Okay.
So
cool.
Buckle in. You're familiar with the concept of lost history. For those who don't know, Woods and I, we talk about lost history a lot, and essentially lost history is it's history that we're not quite fully aware of. It's kind of the theory that history could have been rewritten at some point, right? And so the things that we were taught aren't necessarily the things that happened, or it's the theory that certain things from history are simply gone. They've just been wiped. Have you heard of the phantom time hypothesis?
I don't believe so.
It has nothing to do with Phantom of the Opera, though. I hate to break it to you. This is according to some historians. This was especially popular back in the 90s when they started figuring this out. According to historians, 2 things have been posited. A, we don't live in 2021. We live in 1724. Bear with me.
All right.
2, the medieval ages never happened.
Okay.
Okay? Prior to the current calendar that we have...
Oh, I'm ready.
We call it the Gregorian calendar. The reason why it's called the Gregorian calendar is because Pope Gregory the 13th created it.
Okay.
Gregorian calendar.
Gotcha.
Prior to that, the calendar that was most widely used throughout the earth was the Julian calendar, which was proposed by Julius Caesar.
Did you make fire poke, bro?
No. I'm just reading notes. Okay.
You took notes? I didn't take notes.
The Julius Caesar created his calendar in 48 BC. Pope Gregory created his calendar in 1582, so much later. The reason why we switched calendars is because the Julius calendar wasn't very scientifically accurate in terms of what an actual solar year is. 364.29 days. Or something, right?
Okay.
which is why we have a leap year. Right? The Julius calendar didn't take that into account. And so
it just got way off at the end.
So far off that for every 128 years, you have to take away a day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's like when you're shooting an arrow and you're just a little off, by the time you get to the target, you're not even at the target.
Yeah, the further you are, right, the more off it's gonna get. Once this was realized, they were like, okay, we need to create a new calendar to compensate for this. Not only that, but we want to keep the calendar that we were using somewhat accurate, so we need to take some days out of the equation. So that way, the first day on the Gregorian calendar is accurate. So what did Pope Gregory do? This is going to blow your mind. In 1582, October 4th through October 14th never happened. That's true. We know that for a fact. That was removed from the calendar. So everything that happened between those 2 days, we don't know about.
That's weird.
That's
weird.
weird
because it's a concept. But it's weird, it's because it's how we record what happens.
Exactly. That's 10 days.
Yeah.
That's missing, right?
Throw a hella party.
Right? Yeah, nobody's gonna
Next
remember.
party.
It's gonna be wiped. Here's where it gets really weird though. If you do the math between 48 BC and 1582, it shouldn't have been 10 days missing. It should have been 13. Which means that he didn't take into account 300 years.
Oh no.
So the question is, was it a simple math mistake with these huge implications that we're dealing with today still? Or was he well aware of the fact that something occurred 600 years earlier. So what occurred 600 years earlier is we had Pope Sylvester II, and we had a Roman emperor named Otto III. And both of them wanted to be known as ruling in the year 1000. Problem is they lived in the year 700. So what did they do? The two of them used the powers that they had to supposedly, according to this hypothesis, leap us forward 300 years.
Bro, what?
Yes. So everything, according to this, that took place between 700 and something and the year 1000 literally never happened. A huge portion of medieval history was fake. It was falsified. Yeah. Obviously, we have no official way of proving it, and you know, obviously there are a lot of people who are incredibly skeptical of that, but it's pretty freaking interesting.
Okay, yes. Wait, but... wait, whoa, okay, so... rather than fixing the 300 years, because that's a whole, like, I feel like there's way more paperwork involved with 300 years.
Exactly.
He decided to leave out the 3 days.
Right.
For the 3 years.
Right,
Okay.
because
And
they wanted to perpetuate this idea that Pope Sylvester and Emperor Otto ruled in the year 1000, because it would further, like, put their staple into history then. Oh, they were the ones who ruled during the turn of the millennia.
The implications of skipping 300 years would mean that 300 years would have to be fabricated.
Yes. So everything that we know in history that took place within those 300 years would be false.
What about the stuff that we find from that era?
There are very little artifacts, missing written history from that period as well.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So, 1724 is when we might be living right now.
Oh my god, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
Alright, this one is about, and you're pretty familiar with this, but this one is about the Nazi regime having a secret hideaway, what do they call it? Fortress in Antarctica. Nothing's too crazy about that conspiracy theory. I'd say that's just like a regular theory. We're all familiar with the Nazi regime and what Hitler was into. He was into anything from science, mathematics, chemistry, biology, all the way to religion, magic, sorcery.
The Fountain of Youth.
The Fountain of Youth. The theory was proposed in 1947 by Ladislas Sabo, a Hungarian exile in Argentina. He claimed that Hitler survived the war and that U-boats that docked in Argentina after the war had first dropped him off at a secret Nazi base. He proposed that the Schwabenland had set up a base there. What is crazy about this theory, though, is what comes out of that. One of the theories was that the Schwabenland and all the crew members essentially stumbled upon like alien technology. I think the more dramatic theory here that comes out of this is claiming that Hitler never died. Instead, Hitler escaped in the Schwabenland or whatever. He escaped in the
Schwabenland.
So what we do know is that the Schwabenland did indeed sail to Antarctica in 1938 with the intent of claiming an area known as Queen Maud Land. You might pronounce it differently than me. It would have taken about 20 days to get to the site of supposed base and back. Given that the Schwabenland was only in Antarctica for around 30 days, it would have left only 10 days to build the entire base. But who's to say they didn't go back in the number of years that they were like in power for?
Right. Or that they weren't already there, for that matter.
So one thing I do want to point out is we've never actually found any physical evidence of Hitler's body. You know, with all that being said, I just think that one half of this theory is not crazy at all. It's not.
Because Hitler was crazy.
Exactly. But also the other half of this is also the alien fact too. And there's a buttload of conspiracy theories that couple with the idea of like finding alien technology and ancient civilizations and all this mumbo jumbo under the ice.
Pretty sure that Germany was attempting to make their own flying saucers. And you gotta keep in mind that this was like 30 years prior, 20 to 30 years prior to Roswell. Right? Roswell was in the 50s, this was in the 30s presumably, so they were already trying to make UFOs prior to Roswell happening, which is when UFOs became mainstream.
What this theory is, it's a fun little tie together. You know, you're taking a bunch of like known facts and like tying it together to give like a fun little narrative.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's true about the Hitler stuff, but I also don't know enough about what's under the ice, and I know enough about what we do know to not jump to any conclusions about anything on the alien aspect or anything of like the fortress out there.
Yeah.
Jacob, you're up. This is your second theory. I'm excited to see it.
Okay. Are you familiar with the concept of panspermia? So here's three things that we know. Mars at one point had oceans. In fact, they think that 30% of Mars was covered by water. 2, do you know what an extremophile is?
It sounds familiar.
An extremophile is an organism that can withstand temperatures that most organisms could not.
Oh, like the little bear things?
Water bears, also known as tardigrades. Yes, exactly. We know that some extremophile animals, such as tardigrades, can survive in the void of space for long periods of time. 3, we have found Mars rocks on Earth that definitely came from Mars. Supposedly, the reason why we have those rocks here on Earth is because if something hits a planet hard enough, all of that material shoots back into space and is just hanging out there until it finally lands on a different celestial body. Right? Earth in this case. There was water on Mars, could have been life on Mars, there were impacts on Mars that sent their rocks to Earth. How far-fetched is it that Earth life could have started as a direct result of Mars life already being there or having been there? If tardigrades can live in space, why couldn't other organisms that came from Mars? And it doesn't just stop at Mars. Venus, they think, had oceans at some point before it went all green gas chaotic.
Even our own moon had water at some point.
Exactly. But we also recently discovered, a couple years back, there was this giant meteor that was passing through our solar system and they didn't know what it was. Turns out it was from a different solar system. We have bodies, celestial bodies like Oumuamua, entering our solar system from other places. So it doesn't just stop at Mars and Venus and moons.
Really.
It could be from a totally different solar system. So who's to say that the chances of that happening aren't likely? In fact, what if that happens all the time? What if life on Earth came from a solar system that's hundreds of thousands of light years away?
What if it's still happening with single-cell organisms?
Exactly.
That's like why there's like down in the Amazon they discover 10,000 new bugs like every month or something. I just I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think what you just said makes the mystery of where did life start even greater, right? Because like we don't know how a couple molecular structures turned into a single cell organism on Earth. We have a couple theories. One was like lightning hit some sort of molecular structure, and so be it, a single-cell organism popped out.
There's also volcanoes involved.
Yeah. Earth is getting hit by crap every day. Even if it breaks up in our atmosphere, it doesn't mean those extremophiles are going to die, because they're literally doing that in space, right? Who's to say every single rock that falls in here doesn't have like some sort of life on it, you know?
Yeah, not to mention just asteroids alone. We found the building blocks for life.
On asteroids?
On asteroids.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
If something hits Earth, right, like a single cell organism, and then evolves, why would that not be happening elsewhere? Yeah. Okay, so my last one will be this crazy conspiracy theory that I had stumbled on. I think it was on Netflix. I'll leave a link. It might be on YouTube, actually. I'll leave a link down below. But essentially, I had watched this and it blew me away, and I didn't really do much with the information just because I hadn't researched it or anything. And then when we decided to do this video, I researched it, and then I got blown away a little bit more.
Okay.
You've heard about like the CIA. This is about the CIA. So yeah, hopefully we don't get demonetized. The CIA doing like mind control experiments and like dealing with like LSD and all that mess. Well, there's another theory. The CIA was trying to like train psychics. People who claimed that they could read people's minds, control people, levitate things, remote view. I watched a video claiming that this was all true, and that like during the 60s up until like the 90s, people who claimed that they were psychics, they put them through this like training to see if they could use them for espionage and spying and gathering intel and everything like that, right? Because that was like one of the big, it's still a really big game in the intel community today, which is collecting intel, collecting information. and they didn't have, iPhones that they could spy on people back then.
Right.
What I'm going to read from is the actual CIA reports. Not only did they have these classified projects, they started getting results, actually. Yeah, what these remote viewers were doing, they would close their eyes and they would just draw the first thing that came up in their mind. One of the things here I want to read you is one of their results. In September 1979, ACSI tasked INSCOM to locate a missing Navy aircraft. The only information provided was a picture of the type aircraft missing and the names of the crew. Where the aircraft was operating was not disclosed. In this initial session, the remote viewer placed the aircraft to within 15 miles of where it was actually located. I'll read you this last. I'll read you in summary.
Okay.
In summary, remote viewing has demonstrated it is of value and has a high rate of success. Remote viewing should never stand alone, but should be used in conjunction with information from other intelligence sources. Collection of intelligence through remote viewing is not an experiment. It is a successful collection method. The Army effort is not research and development. It is operational collection. Remote viewing is passive, inexpensive, there is no defense, and there is no risk of collection compromise. That is one piece of documentation where the CIA is claiming that this remote viewing, which is a psychic ability, in the process of strategizing like a training program, they favored certain personality types. So they were looking for outgoing, smart, charismatic, funny. They would recruit a bunch of soldiers who were in charge of getting through the landmine fields, and all the surviving soldiers, the luckier ones, or the ones with more intuition, would be selected. And what they had found out is that you don't have to be like psychic, you don't have to be like highly intuitive, but rather like this ability is very, very common in the fact that like usually everyone has it.
If this psychic ability is real, it can be trained like a muscle.
Yes.
Everybody has it, you just gotta get better at it. And some people might be more so naturally inclined to use it off the bat, but regardless, you can build up your psychic strengths.
Yeah, it's so common that the two scientists that were first heading this project are alongside all the remote viewers, remote viewing, and doing like missions for CIA. Yeah, it gets so serious that the CIA is like actually looks at it like a serious program and a threat. Because if possible, like absolutely a threat. You can just look in on anybody. So that's crazy.
Yeah, well, especially if everybody could do it, who's to say that Russia's not going to, or China?
That's another thing that they were saying in here is that apparently they have their own programs for it.
Interesting.
So
interesting. It also sounds like something that Hitler would have been into.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
If you guys enjoyed this, let us know in the comments below. This is kind of just, again, like a natural thing we do, and we could probably make a thing of it. Anything you want to say?
Brush your teeth and floss. Make sure you floss. I don't floss. Do you floss?
That's a conspiracy theory.